What's up, y'all? Welcome to How To Mondays on Gratified Grad, where it's my goal to help you graduate with gratification. In today's video, we're going to go through my process in preparing for a journal club presentation. And basically, a journal club is where you get together with a group of peers with a common interest and you pick a peer-reviewed journal article to discuss, critique, talk about, see how it fits within each other's research. The first thing you need to do is find an article. And there are a number of ways that you can go about finding an article. Me personally, I use PubMed. PubMed is a hub of peer-reviewed journal articles, but there's also other things such as going directly to journal article sites. So specifically in the sciences, you could go to Nature, you can go to Cell, you could go to the Journal of Biochemistry. Why is it not coming to me? But it's acronym JBC. And you can read through some of the latest upcoming articles, and then whatever fits the interest of your group and the interest of yourself, of course, you choose the article. If you would like more information on, the process of choosing an article, I'm actually having a conversation with Roger Walker that's going to come out later on, and it is going to detail how he goes about choosing articles and making sure the articles fit within his interest in his work. And so the next thing you want to do is determine what are the key points being conveyed by the article. And so those are the two main things, being what is the gap in knowledge that this article is addressing. So basically, what is the question that they're answering? And then what is the claim that they are making, which is how are they answering that question, or like what is their answer to that question? And so from there, you now have the focus of what you are looking for in reading through this paper. Is determining, do their results, do their conclusions and their data reflect the claim that they're trying to make? And so then you want to make sure that you have a good understanding of the methods that they use in this paper. This is very important because if you don't understand how they went about doing the experiments that they did, then you can't fully understand how to interpret the data that they're showing you in this paper. So then the next thing you want to do is go through and select the figures, and this will change as you go throughout creating your presentation. For sure, I can say that you'd probably want to include figure 1, because figure 1 will include the figure that sparked this experiment. It really gives you your foundation for why you're doing this experiment. And then you also want to include the last figure, because typically in the last figure, that's where they get their claim from. The last figure will hold the data that really sends home that claim and that conclusion that they're trying to make with this paper. What I do is I go through the paper to see what story can I tell based off the data and the figures that they have shown. And so I have been reading through journal articles for a while now, and I don't necessarily need to look at the figures, but if you're new to reading peer-reviewed journals and peer-reviewed articles, then it may be advantageous for you to use the caption of the figures to help guide you through what the figure is telling you. But more importantly, you should be able to tell a story just looking at the figures. So not reading through the results section or the future direction section or anything like that. You should be able to get a basic understanding of what that paper is trying to convey just by looking through the figures. Really good papers allow you to do this. Now there are some papers that are very dense, and you need to have that background information and more information to understand them. But in general, the goal of an author when writing a paper is to make sure that you can easily understand and grasp what it is that they're trying to convey to you with their paper. So yeah, you want to go through and see if you can tell a story using their figures. Then what I do is I start taking notes, and so these last three things kind of go hand in hand, and you can do them interchangeably in, you know, selecting your figures, determining or figuring out how to tell the story of the paper through the figures. And then the last one is looking at the discrepancies within the paper. And by discrepancies, I mean, like, for example, if the authors say that this result is statistically significant, well, looking at, let's say you're looking at a bar graph, and visually the bar graph, the data does not look to be any different from the control data. That could be a discrepancy on you, in your opinion, because you don't necessarily understand where the statistical significance is coming from. Typically, if you dig a little deeper in the paper and look in the methods section, you'll see where and how they did their significance, or sometimes the significance will be located in the caption. Another example of noting a discrepancy is if you see that the controls vary from experiment to experiment. And so all experiments should have a control to it, or they should make a note in saying that, you know, controls were conducted and they resemble previous controls. But most experiments will have their own control associated with them. And if you notice that, you know, in this one control, and the controls in this one figure aren't as strong as the last controls that you saw in the figure, that should raise like a question and saying, okay, well, what is the difference, or what could have happened to cause these two differences in what I'm seeing with the basic controls of this figure. And lastly, after you have gone through and really thoroughly understood this paper, you should be able to come up with your own conclusions based off of the data and your own interpretation of the data. And then you can compare that to what the authors are concluding from the paper or from their data. And then you can look at, okay, this is what I say the conclusions are, and this is what they say the conclusions are. And you can decide, okay, yes, these things match up, or no, I don't completely agree with all the conclusions. And this is where the critical thinking comes in, because then, you know, you can't just say, I don't feel like this conclusion is sufficient. You have to say why. Like, you have to be able to think through what they did and what they could have done better, or, you know, was this a great thing that they did, or the conclusion that they came to is not exactly what you think it should have been. So these are things that I do to prepare for a paper. I will be posting a video where I go through how I put together my PowerPoint for my journal club presentation. So look forward to that one as well. Hopefully this video was helpful. Let me know some of the steps that you take in order to prepare to present a journal article or present information to your group in the comments.